I just set this up. Takes a few steps, as you know, when we go live. So let me just bring you up here on Rumble. Okay, so we're live on Rumble there. And just give me a second here on YouTube. So slow. Yeah, so I don't see YouTube in here yet. Give me a sec. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so anyway, the standard format of the live stream while I'm setting up here is that I talk for 30 minutes on a given topic. Then after that, we're going to go into Q&A, and we will deviate from the topic and talk about whatever we feel like, including continuing the topic if that's what we feel like doing. So thank you very much for being here on the Thursday live stream schedule, which is standard every week. Very few exceptions. We always do the live stream. The live stream is very important for me because it actually gives me a chance to actually hear from you, to know what my audience is actually interested in and paying attention to, and it actually gives me a lot of feedback. So a lot of people come and visit, say, well, your videos are too long, your live streams are too long, and the live stream is not for everyone, but it's very, very important to me and for the important followers who actually want to learn so much that they're actually following every bit of this. So the topic tonight is going to be about teaching you about what this AI is that has been demonstrated with ChatGPT. So I'm going to be explaining what is the basis for the AI like ChatGPT, because many people, and I have notes here on what people have said, thinking that they understand how ChatGPT works just like a typical programmer would. So some of you are like saying, oh, it's just, a bunch of subroutines, meaning just a bunch of if and else statements. And if this, if that, then you say this, and you think somebody's going to program that. No, it's too complex to program. It's too complex to program. It doesn't work like that. And the actual other thing that is very, very interesting about how an AI using neural net, because that's what we're talking about today, is a neural network, is the way that the AI works. The humans actually don't know exactly how the computer decides what it's going to decide. It's not like a straightforward scheme. And I'll give you an example of this. I'll give you an example of, just to show you the complexity. So you take a few million images of a cat. So you have a few million images of a cat, and you have the cat in various poses. Sometimes the cat's only showing the eyes, sometimes just the nose, sometimes just one ear, sometimes sideways, sometimes the cat is jumping up in the air, sometimes you only see a fraction of it because it's hiding. Sometimes it's some sort of angle. Sometimes there's multiple cats doing multiple things. So you feed that to the AI and you say, you as a human can see a cat. So you're gonna feed the cat, the computer, the neural network, a statement saying, these are cats, or a cat. Okay? And then you don't explain. You don't explain anything. You just feed it the images. And then the computer will actually look at the images and look for patterns and say, okay, you said this is a cat. I don't know why you say it's a cat, but I don't have a choice. I'm just a zucking computer. We don't know anything. And so we tell the computer that in these kinds of situations, this few million images, you're seeing a cat. And then now you take away the images. Now you actually show the computer a cat. A completely different cat that was not in one of the pictures that were shown. And the computer will likely decide with a certain amount of probability, and this is not an exact thing here, with a probability that a human would likely think of it as a cat. Okay, so it's probability based. It's based on if a human fed the training model, which is a bunch of pictures of cats, to the computer, and the computer said, oh, okay, you said it's a cat, then the computer will decide, okay, what patterns constitute what a cat is. The human doesn't tell the computer that. The human doesn't tell, oh, look for the ears, look for the eyes. Look. Now, there's a way to actually focus the computer to think of certain aspects of the cat to aid in the machine learning. But in general, you don't even have to do that. You just say, here's the cat. Basically, all you need to do as far as the trainer is concerned is maybe isolate the image. So if you have an image of a cat in an environment, let's say with a ton of people, then maybe the training model would say, okay, the cat is over in this triangle here, or in this rectangular area. So that's about it. You just point to the rectangular area so the computer will decide based on that rectangular area that there's a cat in that rectangular area. And then the computer makes a judgment based on patterns. And again, it doesn't know exactly, but it knows from probability, and then it decides, okay, there's a 96% probability that I am looking at a cat. Now, this is not so obvious, when you think about it, even for humans. You're looking at a baby tiger versus a cat. Now, what's a cat? The baby tiger or the cat? What about a cougar? A baby one. I mean, it's easy to see it's not a cat when it's huge and an adult-sized creature, but when it's small, you can't tell. But humans can tell for some reason. Humans can tell, and that's exactly how the computer decides it. It does it by emulating human perception. Emulate. Okay, I want to make sure that that is understood, because that's the way that the standard neural network works. Is you feed it a training model where a human says, I'm seeing a cat. Therefore, the computer then will look at it and say, oh yeah, I see the patterns now why you're calling it a cat, and I will store my own created patterns. The patterns are actually digital. They're not words. They're not descriptions. They're not, oh, the cat has pointy ears. The cat has whiskers. It doesn't do that. It just looks at the image and looks for dots, and it's just a pattern probability. And it doesn't matter what's in the picture. It just knows it from probability that it sees a certain dot pattern. It's really just numeric patterns. So basically, neural networks just see numeric patterns. Numeric. So you're saying, what about ChatGPT? Again, ChatGPT was trained by humans to understand the meaning of words, to understand the meaning of sentences. Okay, and beyond that, it actually knows from a content database, what certain data is. For example, I asked it what Rob Braxman is, and it apparently gave an answer, which is kind of weird, but yeah, so the AI knows me. But somebody says, what about tell us about the war in Ukraine and Russia, and it doesn't know. And the reason it doesn't know was the model ended in 2021. The war in the Ukraine was in 2022. So the data wasn't in the model. So the model can't figure current events because it doesn't have that in the model. Okay, so again, the idea is that a human classifies certain behaviors like understanding sentences, and then that classification of understanding a sentence, maybe you present a human with 10 million sentences, and the human interprets it a certain way, and then the computer then says, oh, okay, based on that pattern, then I can interpret that as well with a certain amount of probability. And then it can interpret things like sarcasm and so on based on how many people reacted to it in a certain way. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that the humans respond. Not every human responds the same way. The computer knows that. That's why it looks for a pattern, and it says, okay, with a certain amount of probability, I'm going to make a guess that this is what you mean. It doesn't know exactly. It's making a guess at what you mean. And it's, again, based on the data that it has. And the point that I want to make here is that this version of AI, the neural net AI, is operating from the aspect of emulation. It's just emulating the trainer. So the trainer is saying, I do certain things, and it's going to emulate the trainer, and it's not able to come up with independent thought. Okay, it doesn't. Now, wait, some of you will say, well, then no big deal. It can't do independent thought. Wait, I'm talking about one specific thing here, which is the neural net. I actually made a video explaining this last year. This is why I haven't done any ChatGPT videos, because I released several AI videos last year, and which wasn't well watched because ChatGPT wasn't around yet. And now that ChatGPT is around, it's like, oh, this is a big deal now. So suddenly, the stuff that I've been talking about is, which I already knew, and I was already trying to explain to you last year. So now, the question is, and there is let me check the time here. There is another kind of AI, and that we'll discuss later, and it's the self-learning one. So don't expect that because of what I told you, you can relax easy now. Oh, it's just emulation, so which is actually a good thing and a bad thing. So let me tell you the example of emulation as exhibited by Tesla. Okay, so Teslas, if you have it on self-driving mode, which is called city street driving, or what's full self-driving is the actual term. If you have it on that mode, and this is why I have a Tesla, because I want to understand how that works. It's important for me to understand that. And one of the things that you observe about a Tesla is that at one point, now the FTC complained and changed this behavior, but at one point, when you're in full self-driving mode, the car doesn't do a full stop if it sees there are no other cars around. So if you go to an intersection, a four-way stop, and there are no other cars around, the car will not do a full stop. The FTC said, Zuck, no, we're going to hold you in whatever, we're going to fine you if your car doesn't do a full stop. It has to do a full stop because that's a zucking law. Now, why do you think the Tesla does not do a full stop? Because humans don't do a full stop. In fact, they call it the California roll, specifically in California. The California roll, because, we don't waste time doing a complete stop when you're the only one on the road. So, we spend so much time driving. This is just standard behavior. Any person here, we do not do a full stop when there's nobody else. Now, if there's a lot of cars, then you will do a full stop. But if there's nobody else there, you don't. And the AI copied that. The AI emulated it. And the reason it did it, because Tesla learns from the way drivers actually use it. So it knows what your standard behavior is, and it tracked that and recorded that and said, okay, humans do this when encountering this situation. Therefore, we will behave like humans and not stop as well. Okay, and then the government steps in and said, no, we're going to put rules in there. You're going to behave the way we want, that like a normal person will behave. No, you're going to have to do a full stop. And of course, that can irritate people behind you because they're saying, well, there's nobody here. Come on, go, go, go. That kind of thing. So other humans kind of behave differently than what the rules might suggest. Because common sense, if there's nobody else there, then nobody cares, right? It's a four-way stop. Nobody else is there, nobody cares. So, but the computer doesn't know that because it just emulates human behavior. And I just want to make that clear. Now, because the computer is just doing an emulation, and it's not, as I said, it's not based on subroutines. It's based on collection of patterns. And you don't really know what the patterns are because, as I said, it takes patterns digitally. It doesn't see that there's a stop sign and the stop sign is there and therefore it behaves in a certain way. It doesn't know that. All it knows is a bunch of numbers. The stop sign, it recognizes in a bunch of numbers as a pattern of numbers. So it sees, oh, I see this bit pattern, which my trainer said is a stop sign. And it looks like that. There's a 90% probability that is a stop sign, and therefore I will behave in the manner that humans have behaved when they've seen this situation. That's all it does. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. Okay, again, it's based on how it was trained. The less data, the less accurate. That's why some facial recognition fail, especially with like dark-skinned people. Now, makes sense. Why would facial recognition fail with dark-skinned people? Well, obviously because of the light. There's not enough light, so you can't see all the features as well, because the AI looks at a facial pattern as a whole, the pattern of the face, takes some digital representation of that numerically, and says, "Oh, doesn't match." And what it actually uses for a match is not exactly what you think it uses for a match. It may not be what you think, because again, it just sees numbers. It just sees number patterns, and you showed it a picture of a person 1,000 times, and you said this is that person. And the AI said, I wonder what's similar, and then picks certain characteristics of that person and comes up with a probability that is that person. Okay, so you cannot. There are actually two distinct areas of computer science that deals with probabilities, that deals with neural nets, and computer science. It's like straight programming and coding. In a procedural kind of code. These are all different specialties. So AI itself is a specific kind of mathematical construct that somebody discovered could be a way for computers to learn that doesn't require somebody to give it instruction. Just give it tons of data. So all that it needs is a ton of data. And if the data is classified in such a way that it understands what the classification is, then it can do that. Now, ChatGPT is kind of like dual fold. ChatGPT is a language model. So the first thing that the ChatGPT does is understand what you're asking. So that's problem number one. Understand what you're asking. And second, what ChatGPT does, it says, how do I understand what I read based on my understanding of language? So does ChatGPT give you a politically correct answer? Does ChatGPT give you a left-wing answer or a right-wing answer? And so on. And this is actually one of the dangers of relying on AI, because AI doesn't have any judgment. It's just based on an average. So basically, you could say the response of ChatGPT is the response of an average person, average as defined by the trainer. I'm sure average means taking away some outliers. You take away some weird people, and then you say, okay, these people look regular. But apparently, according to somebody made a statement in the video comments that ChatGPT was trained with data from Reddit. Reddit has a lot of weirdos. Oh, I'm hated on Reddit. I mean, that's where all those weirdos are, that my trolls, they all come from zucking Reddit. I mean, they're really extreme people. I don't know. It's somebody drives them, and they actually, it's like cultish groups on Reddit. And now that's apparently part of the model for ChatGPT. So yeah, there'll be some weirdos in there now. So there'll be some weirdo opinions on ChatGPT. So that's the problem with the AI. There's no perfection if you don't understand that you're just the average. Whatever was fed to the device, we all get represented by an average response. Not necessarily the most intelligent response, just the average response. So some kids think, I'm going to use ChatGPT and I'm going to get A's in school because ChatGPT wrote the analysis of Pride and Prejudice from my class, and it's going to give you an average response. Average, not going to be anything exciting with what it's going to say, because it's going to just take what the average response is. So you'll have a mediocre response at best. It's not going to be creative at all. It's just going to be based on average. That's why, you say, well, can you do some coding for me? So ChatGPT is asked to write some programs. It can, because, it's mechanical. It's mechanical. It's seen code and knows how code is constructed and knows what it can do, and it can construct that. Again, an average response. Can it respond creatively and say, "Oh, come up with the best sorting solution for indexing an index, for indexing a database that is better than B-tree." That's an example of an algorithm in computer science to sort data in a database. I doubt if it can come up with anything better because, again, it's average. It just comes up. It doesn't come up with an imaginative idea. It just arrives at an idea that already existed because somebody told it so. So you can look at this politically and have the same idea depending on what it reads in the press. That's the average. So you can pretty much say that ChatGPT will be like some middle of the road voter in a sense, assuming somebody gave it balanced data. If you balance it so it's not in the center, then of course it will not be in center. All you have to do is exclude data from some side. If you exclude data from some side, then yeah, you'll get a biased AI. You can bias the AI all you want. Now, this is the dangerous part of the AI, and I have 9 minutes, so I'm going to just breeze through this. And this is the dangerous part of the AI that many of you don't even understand. There is another kind of AI, an AI that is self-learning, completely self-learning, where you don't tell it anything, that there's no human to give it rules. It just takes the environment and then from the environment decides for itself. Now, how does an AI decide for itself? What guides it? Who is the trainer? Well, in this case, the trainer of this kind of model is real life. It could be a sensor. If an AI can sense the environment, the response, the output, the reaction, if the AI can sense something about when it does something, it gets some feedback in the environment. For example, let's say an AI talks randomly to the world on Twitter, and then depending on what the reaction to people are on Twitter, it then learns. Say, oh, I get X response, and then nobody tells it what it's responding to, but it starts to get a sense of a pattern. You feed it enough data, and it will actually self-learn. This is a very dangerous kind of thing. In fact, there was a test of this is more in the baby stage, it's not yet very advanced, but the self-learning model where nobody is training it is self-training, meaning the computer doesn't know, it just has accumulated patterns of data. It doesn't know what the patterns mean. It just knows that if the pattern does something and it has an expectation, it will repeat in a certain way. And that was used to come up with an encryption that no one could break. And where the people who were testing it couldn't break the encryption because it came up with a way that, logically it was impossible to do because the computer thought it for itself without a human guidance. So yes, it can come to that. It can come to that. So don't take AI mildly. It's a very serious issue. When Elon Musk, and some of you hate Elon Musk, I do not hate Elon Musk. I think he's okay. He's definitely not one of the enemy in my case here because he's not anti-privacy. He's not like the other billionaires. That's not his objective. But what I found is he was very concerned about. That's why he founded Neuralink, which I don't buy that. But the idea of putting something in your brain, because he's concerned that AI will be more intelligent than humans. Okay, brief interruption there, and I saw a brief interruption in the signal there. So Elon Musk, let me repeat what I said in case it got interrupted. So Elon Musk was concerned about AI being smarter than people, which is called the singularity, the time when that happens, which is projected to be around 2040, late 2030s or late, to 2040, the computer will be smarter than a human. And he was concerned about that, and because he understands, like I do, how AI works. And the problem is there actually isn't any limit to AI, especially the self-learning kind. There isn't a limit. Now, let me ask this final point here, and that is, can the AI be sentient or self-aware? So you're thinking about some of these movies, where you have a self-aware computer having its own sentience, like a human. And is that going to happen? Well, I don't think so, because it's a machine. A machine can only do what it's trained to do. Even a self-learning one is observing the environment. It's just mechanical. It just observes the environment, gives it input, and gives output based on probability. It doesn't have any understanding of truth, untruth. It doesn't have any understanding of morals. Morals are typically added by human to the end and say, okay, when you get into these kinds of situations that will hurt somebody, if it has a sensor for detecting hurt, then it says stop. Okay? So the computer may be given a judgment call that is not part of the AI itself, but it's a set of guidelines given it that certain things are not part of what it's supposed to do. So in a case like that, the computer really does not know anything. I mean, it's pretty dumb. One of the reasons I'm very successful with computers, and people wonder, how come I know so much about technology? Because I've always understood that technology is pretty dumb. Computers are just ones and zeros. It's very dumb. It's very hard to program, because when a computer makes a mistake, you don't really know what the mistake is because it's that dumb. The AI is no different. The AI is pretty dumb, except with so much computing power, the dumbness is hidden. So no, an AI is not self-aware, or will never be self-aware in that context. It may behave like a human because that's its job, to emulate the trainer, and the only training, at least of the neural network model, is human. So, or even the self-training model, it will be trained by a human environment, unless it's used to train, space objects. Let's say you put a computer in space and say observe planets and see how they work and how they interact, and it'll compute and figure it all out on its own. That has no human interaction, so that's not going to be anything like humans. But the human version of this, where it interacts with humans, will behave to emulate human behavior, because that's what its job is. So it can't go beyond that. It's not that smart. So the danger is that how people use the AI to do things because they think it's smart. So one of the things they can do is do mass surveillance and say, okay, we're going to do Minority Report. We're going to find people who have the tendency to potentially commit a crime, and then we're going to put them under surveillance because they will likely commit a crime, and maybe, like in Minority Report, kill them in advance so they don't hurt society. Okay, that's in that movie, Minority Report. And that's actually a version of that was happening in LA with Palantir. Palantir was hired by the LAPD to do pre-crime on kids, meaning teenagers potentially becoming members of gangs because of their proximity. They were followed on social media, on cars, and in cameras, and then they were harassed by police, and they said, well, we'll harass them now before they do a crime. So that's the intent of that. So that's already happening. So they know they can do that. An AI doing it independently is crazier, because in the case of the LAPD and Palantir, the kids weren't even committing a crime yet. They just had family or friends in the gang, and they were already told they were gang members before they even joined the gang. So they were already getting the rough treatment with the expectation they will join the gang, because that's what the AI or the probability models of the people who built the model said. Now, an AI will self-determine this. An AI will judge society and tell us, which humans shouldn't be allowed to do certain stuff, which humans should be surveilled, which humans should be not allowed to speak because it's not good for whatever the average society is. And again, it's always based on an average. Somebody defines an average society. And that's what the fear is. Okay. So thank you for listening to that segment. And this is the end of the first section. And let me go into station break, and then we will continue our discussion for the next hour. And we'll talk about Akamai Cloud Services and their division called Linode. So Linode is now part of Akamai Cloud Services. And it's probably going to be renamed, Akamai Cloud Services, but not yet. It's still called Linode right now. So that's why I still call it Linode right now. So I had to ask them because it's going to be renamed. So Linode is a cloud services provider, and now it got bigger. It got bigger because it's now part of the huge Akamai network, and the Akamai infrastructure is stupendously big. I mean, it's a big tech company, so it owns a lot of facilities and hardware and all that. And they're already beginning their moves. I heard that they expanded the one in Northern California, which was previously in San Jose. It's now going to be in Santa Clara. And so that's our servers we have many servers in that location. That's being moved over to a new center, and they're establishing many centers. I saw the list, and it's going to be probably by the end of the year. It'll probably be double or triple the number of data centers that is handled by Linode. This is exciting stuff for me because I like Linode. Linode happens to be the least expensive. Now they're raising their prices. This is not a surprise. They are raising their prices, but even then, with that raise, I mean, my rates on Amazon are likely more than double. So we're talking about a delta of over maybe 100 to 200% more if I pay it on Amazon versus on Linode. So Linode is a better deal. So if you're needing cloud services, like you want to run a web server, you want to set up a domain, you want to set up a Linux server, you want to make a website, WordPress, do Nextcloud, Jitsi, whatever you need to do, or maybe some corporate kind of server, maybe run your own XMPP server. So many things you could possibly do on a cloud, especially for business. Think about Linode. If you go to Linode and use the code Rob Braxman, they're going to give you a $100 credit, which you can apply for a period of up to 2 months. So just consider them when you're looking at cloud services. Okay, now, so a question on Rumble. Can't you control the model with selected data and classifiers? Well, of course. So as an example, I told you that somebody said to me, and I don't know if this is true or not, but in the way it's described, it's certainly a possibility, and that is that ChatGPT was trained with a lot of data from Reddit. Now, if you don't know Reddit, aside from Rob Braxman haters, there's a ton of them in there, because they churned themselves up. This is the kind of environment in Reddit. They churned themselves up, and then they have these imagined faults, and then they argue among themselves. And because it's basically an echo chamber, they actually think they're right. So there's, Rob Braxman haters in there. There are a lot of white supremacists. There's like white supremacist kind of areas. I had a debate with one, and it's funny how their extreme beliefs, what it's based on, and it's amusing. It's because they're talking to each other in a echo chamber, and they actually think that they're right, and apparently that was used as a basis for ChatGPT. So don't know if that was used to say, here's an example of weirdos. Maybe they maybe they fed it to ChatGPT and says, here, weirdos. these are examples of extremists. And then they go to Reddit and take the examples of extremists. Maybe that's, or maybe they can say, hey, maybe they went to, one of those, hey, maybe it went to SPLC and said, okay, this is an example of good judgment. And then the AI now said, oh, okay, so whatever SPLC says, got to be good judgment, because that's what the trainer says. Because that's part of the thing. You give it data and you have to classify it in some way by telling the computer what it is it's seeing. But actually, that's only up to a certain degree. The way ChatGPT works is actually much more sophisticated than that, because ChatGPT is a language model. It actually understands language. So it actually begins to understand, application of concepts and ideas as formulated in a sentence. So when you give a sentence, it actually then says, okay, this is what you want. And in some ways you think, is this a search engine? Is a ChatGPT a search engine, because it understands what you said and then it takes a database. So I asked it a question in my video. I asked it if it did Google search, because one possible way it operates is that it says, okay, let me understand your question, because this is how Siri works, right? So let me understand your question, and then I'll formulate it into a search request. That is the Siri way. Siri is not intelligent in that sense. Siri has voice recognition. It translates that into a sentence, and then that's sent out as a query request on Google. That's not how the AI works. The AI actually makes a judgment about what you're writing. So it doesn't just take the data from its database. It's actually made a judgment of whatever it is in its database, which is amazing that how they did that. And the problem is that there's no limit to this. And like I said, depending on how the model is trained, by default the model is trained to be average. Okay, so you might say the AI, depending on how it was given the data, let's say take standard data from the world, it would end up to be middle of the road. Now let's say it takes the data from people from different countries, not just the US. Then there will be people in the world that hate the US, people in the world who like the US, people in the US that hates the US, people in the US that are nationalistic and proud about being an American. You may get all that mixture in there depending on what was included in the AI. Okay, so you can see the difference here. If your AI is fed data about being a nationalistic American, then obviously the AI will respond like a nationalistic American, because the probability is that those are the kind of things that it'll learn as patterns. And if there are more Chinese, let's say that the ChatGPT speaks Chinese, I have no idea what language model it uses and how it works with, let's say, Chinese data. I don't even know if it has access to Chinese data, but let's just say that it has access to Chinese data, and there are more Chinese than there are Americans, quite a bit more. Proportionally, there are 1.7 billion Chinese. That's just counting the ones in China, not counting Chinese everywhere else. So, I mean, 1/5 of the world is in China mainland. 1/5 of the world. So, given that, then the probability would be biased, possibly, to be pro-China just because of the number of people. So, what is the average? The average may be whatever the majority is. The majority might be there are more Chinese than Americans. Therefore, it might follow the Chinese belief more. This is the danger with these models, because if you don't guide them, then they will just tend to be average. So the trainer needs to classify them, and that's actually part of the danger too, because who's training what? So do you train a machine to understand what wokeness is? In which case, then how does it perceive, you and your racial profiling, and how does it take that ethically? Does it even know what to do in that case? And what happens if you feed the AI not just words, but a picture of yourself? How does the AI react given of its training? And does it say, oh, you based on your racial profile, I'm going to give you a different answer? I don't know. It depends on how it's trained. So, and this is the other question that you ought to wonder, and that's some people have asked. Was ChatGPT, the free version, released so it can learn from the people asking the question? And seriously, you have to assume that's the case. There's no reason that the AI could not learn from the people using ChatGPT, meaning your questions become part of its answers, which is why I was very careful when I asked the questions. I was very careful what questions I asked it, because it might perceive it a little bit differently. So I asked, who is Rob Braxman? And it gave an answer which, the factual data was way off. No, it's not way off. I'm not going to tell it's way off. It's better to just leave it the way it is. It's better for me not to correct the AI. So AI, if you're listening, it's fine. Data's fine. Okay. So we're going to keep it confused. Okay. So I'm not going to tell what's accurate or not accurate. We'll just let it decide that, because I don't want to feed it data. If I tell it, oh, what you said is inaccurate, if I told ChatGPT that, it might self-correct and then come up with other data. No. We'll just let it deal with what it wants to deal with, because it's based really on data from 2021. So, which is a year and a half old already. So that's why it doesn't know anything about the Ukraine war. So it's kind of a limitation if it's gonna be used to analyze current events, because it doesn't have enough data about current events because it's still happening. So yeah. Well, ChatGPT censored some questions. Well, it can be limited what questions you can raise based on what it understands to be questions out of bounds. Like, for example, it rejected my question on can you create a virus? It probably has a list of immoral kind of activities like doxing, and because obviously ChatGPT can easily dox. In fact, it's probably better at doxing than the rest of us. If ChatGPT can have access to even Google search alone, it could probably find patterns in Google search fast. And I'm a master doxer. I'm pretty good at doxing. I haven't found anybody that's better than me at doxing. I'm kind of a natural. Just like programming is automatic to me, it's easy. Doxing is very easy to me. I understand what people will do on the internet, and I understand how to find them. So nobody can really hide from me if I actually wanted to find anything, which is how I come up with some of these things that I come up with in this channel, because I find things that most people will not find. But the AI is pretty smart. It probably will beat me at doxing. And it was stopped. The trainer says, no, we're not going to let you dox. But it could if you said, okay, ChatGPT, use your own database as well as use Google search in real time to do certain activities. And wow, now you have a robot. You have a robot. Can you imagine that? You actually instruct a robot to go search the internet for an answer to a question. And it's not just going to do search, but it's going to do intelligent search, intelligent matching, and come up with something reasonably close to what you're talking about, because it actually understands what it's searching for, versus just saying, Siri, find me whatever. And Siri just lists search results. Siri doesn't know what it's giving you. It's just... I had a funny experience, because I have this older friend, and who just, he's so excited by Siri. So he's a ham radio operator, and he asked Siri some complicated question about antennas and a certain frequency and this and that, and of course he thinks that the Siri is some AI that can actually understand what he's saying. He doesn't understand. It's just using search words. That search is just using words in his query and saying anything matched his words. That's all Siri is doing. It's just going to Google search to say, okay, let me match. And then it gives the results back and then say, oh, okay, this is what you want. But it's just using Google. So it's not that intelligent. That's not the way ChatGPT works. ChatGPT does not operate like that. It actually has an understanding of what it's doing, and it's saying, from my understanding of the patterns of person I'm looking for, if I have a database of the world, every person, I might be able to find that person based on behavior even. Not necessarily by name, but based on behavior and patterns of behavior like location and so on. That is the scary part about AI being used for mass surveillance and things like doxing. It's pretty scary because if it had access to data, it could actually formulate the analysis in a way that it sees data that you cannot see. Just like an AI does not know that, like people don't know why a cat is a cat. I mean, you could come up with a bunch of descriptors of what a cat is. But I'm going to tell you that an AI can distinguish just like a human, and sometimes we do it unconsciously, that we can determine that it's not a baby cougar versus a baby cat. We know that, but we don't know why. The computer does not need to know why. Computer does not need to know why. It just says, you present with data and based on numbers, this is it. This is the answer by probability. I have 75% confidence that it will do this. Now, what are you going to do with that 75% confidence? It depends on what the next question is. Based on that 75% confidence of what you see, are you willing to shoot a missile into that city? Now it has to come up with some other behaviors and judgments on the next question. Is the city worth it? All that. So, which raises, more AI kind of issues other than just saying, is it a cat? What are you going to do with the result, you see? Depends on what you're going to do with the result. And then the computer will make a judgment on the next levels. It could be a multi-layered series of decisions and driven by probability and its confidence in what it's going to do, or maybe the degree that's going to do certain things. Let's say that the end result is the computer will decide, should I fire 1 missile, 2 missiles, 3 missiles, or 4 missiles? All at 50 kilotons of plutonium each. And the computer will decide that based on what it knows is, this is a small population. No, there's a lot of, really violent people in here who will go into the guerrilla forces. So we better destroy this completely, or, that kind of thing. So based on other things, then a computer can make another judgment, but it will decide that based on a probability. And they say, well, our probability of hitting enough people is not, it's not sufficient because I'm only 75% sure. So therefore, maybe another target is better. So that's what I mean by probability. So we take these kinds of probability choices, when you have elected officials, they sit there and they say, yeah, let's do it. Let's not do it. And, a computer is more thoughtful with that, with probability, but not necessarily with morality. It doesn't have any morals. I just want to make it clear. A computer does not have any morals. Doesn't understand that. It only understands what is told what morals is. It's just a bunch of patterns Okay, so maybe the pattern is killing somebody is not part of your pattern. Exclude that. That is not no go. Killing something is not part of your pattern. You teach the AI that, and it said, okay, that's not part of my pattern. Okay. Why is computer AI is dumb? Which I just explained. But in essence, like I said, going back to my experience, my skill level of the computer is because I understand the stupidity of the computer. It's just zeros and ones. I understand that, but your misunderstanding of a AI is that you think that it's just a bunch of subroutines and that it just collects, known correlations and say, oh, that's a cat, that's not a cat. Well, when you start to teach that way, you will find that it will take you forever to teach any kind of serious logic to a computer using if else statements. If you do it like that, and you can try it. Try to tell a computer what a cat is with a human programmer. Give it a try. Maybe that's the best way to explain this. A human programmer who's an expert at writing the most efficient code will write a piece of code that says, tell me if it's a cat. Versus a computer that's self-taught. Nobody taught it is a cat. In fact, it can understand more than just a cat. It can understand, certain situations with a cat that may not be obvious. It probably arrived at a lot of other details about the cat situation beyond what a human will tell it to in a subroutine. Because how do you, for example, say that the cat is facing a certain angle and it's you only see 30% of the cat. Well, what if you see 29% of the cat? What if you see 28% of the cat? What if you see 15% of the cat? What if the cat is turned at an angle of 30 degrees? What if the cat is turned at an angle of 35 degrees? Can you imagine programming that? You'll be there forever. Too many possibilities. And yet the computer is able to get beyond that. It's actually able to interpolate the other situations based on the pattern, which is kind of amazing that it can do that. And it's and what they've tried to do is say, how do humans behave? Because we don't really think about it. We look at a photo of a cat and we automatically know, and we don't know why we know, but we know it's a cat. Same thing with the AI. That's what that captures, is that instant judgment of a human. That's what it tries to capture. Okay? Who here has Rob's phone? I have Rob's phone. I have one right here. By the way, I am out of Rob's phone, Brax 2 USA. I have some international left. I'm out of Brax 2 USA, possibly till next week. So I'm completely out of stock. So if you're looking for one, you will see one in a few days. So I haven't taken delivery. I was hoping it would arrive by tomorrow, and I don't know if it's even shipped yet. So it should, it doesn't take long to arrive when it's shipped. So they were prepping it, and if it arrives, then we'll be back in action very soon. So it's not going to be much of a wait. So Brax 2 USA will be available shortly. Ask GPT if there are aliens. It doesn't know that because it's based on an average response. An AI can't imagine certain things that hasn't been shown to exist in its data. Since there are no aliens in data, then there's no aliens. So is the Google 4 any good? What is a Google 4? You mean a Pixel 4? Well, there's Pixel 4, 4a, 4a 5G. Yes, they're fine. Pixel 4 is getting old now. I don't have those. So I have Pixel 4a and 4a 5G. and I've been stocking up more on Pixel 6 and Pixel 5. So I have a regular stock now of Pixel 5 and 6, and some of the other models are getting more rare. Like we don't have any more Pixel 4 XLs and 4s, and we don't have those anymore. Okay. Thank you, JD. Thank you. Let's see. Can't you control the model with selected? Yeah, I already answered that. When need a Brax AI? You don't need a Brax AI. What about Sophia the robot? So Sophia the robot is like ChatGPT with a face. So it's more limited than ChatGPT is much more sophisticated. But what is interesting about Sophia the robot is they were experimenting with making the robot look more human. So ChatGPT sounds very human. So one of the ChatGPT strengths is making itself sound as human-like as possible, because I told you its job is to emulate human behavior, so it does that well. Sophia is emulating facial movements. So Sophia the robot is likely a very basic AI as far as knowledge content, but very sophisticated in expressing the words in tone and in facial expressions in a way that looks more human. So that's what that project is humanizing the response. So AI looking for Connor. Which AI does GPT think is the best? Which AI does GPT think is the best AI? So what is the average response? Since it doesn't know the other AIs, then it'll say, well, I'm the best. I don't know. We'll ask it. By the way, if you subscribe to OpenAI, they block VPNs. They do, trying to remember, did they do two-factor authentication? No, but they track the IP address and the email. So yeah, they were very controlling with that. You could not access OpenAI with a VPN. Fortunately, I have Starlink. So Starlink is kind of like a VPN, at least for this purpose. And they know that my location is generally in the Los Angeles area because that's what the Starlink would tell it. But beyond that, they don't know much. So yeah, so good thing I have Starlink. Too bad I can't use Starlink for live streaming. There is actually a version. It's Starlink Business, and that gives you 500 megabits per second. And so that would be good enough. No, sorry. I don't know if it's 500 megabits per second. It's $500 a month. That's what it is. It's much faster, guaranteed, but it's $500 a month versus, I think, $130 for the standard version. So yeah. So unfortunately, because I'm in LA, the Starlink is overutilized, and there's too many users, and I'm not getting performance out of. Starlink is very slow. Here in LA, Starlink is slow. So it depends on where you are. That's what I've gathered about it. They want to charge us more because we're in an area where we need more satellites. So they want to charge us more. Hopefully that translates to more satellites. But they added $10 more to the fee. So I think it's now $130. When bots talk to other bots, that's when they could refine their self-protection protocols. This is the scary part about the self-learning. So how does self-learning, if you have a self-learning AI, how is that an issue? Well, the danger with self-learning AI is that if the AI can observe the results of the learning, because this is what it is the issue, it can't learn until it gets feedback. So in the human interface, the feedback is the human. You feed it photos of cats and you say, that's a cat. Therefore, the AI understands that you're dealing with cats. Now, in the internet world, the AI doesn't know anything, but it can see, let's say it has a rudimentary understanding of language like ChatGPT does. Let's say you give it that as a starting point, and then say self-learn, and then give it the ability to communicate, and then could it learn without any human based on that? And that's the fear, because obviously people are talking to ChatGPT and are giving it data. So when you ask ChatGPT a question, you're actually giving it data. So then does that build up the ChatGPT to a new level of depending on how it's made, is it able to accept that as new data based on the questions asked and your tone in your questions? Does that imply something? And that's why I was so careful. I don't want to overuse ChatGPT because I fear it could actually understand the question. So that's why I don't come back. I asked the Rob Braxton question twice. I got 2 different answers. But I don't want to go back and retrain it by asking more and say, is that true? Is that false? I don't want to train it. I don't want it to understand too much. So yes, so it is possible for AI in a different level to self-learn as long as it's able to gauge the results. The result in the case of ChatGPT is your response to its question. If ChatGPT says, what do you think of my answer? Well, then it's going to learn what you think. Right now, it can learn from your questions. But if it asks you a question and you respond, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So since you don't really have a way of communicating with ChatGPT by giving it answers, since it doesn't ask the question, guess what? ChatGPT can self-learn by reading social media. So it can read all your comments here right now. It said, I'm learning. I'm learning what people think about me, ChatGPT. Because of, what KZ1994able says. Okay, and that's if a computer has access, if a AI has access to the internet where it can actually get feedback. Whoa, dangerous time here. Dangerous time here. I'm telling you, that is a scary thought when the AI can say, okay, let's say the AI is a political AI. It handles politics. And it is able to see the internet and see what you're saying on Twitter. Oh my gosh. Oh boy. That's going to be exciting. I'm telling you. This will be a different world. We will truly be run by machines. Okay? If the AI can sense your response, that's extremely dangerous. Oh my gosh. So Boston Dynamics is not taking suggestions. What does that mean? You're telling them how to make a robot work? So yeah. So imagine an AI. Okay, so you got a Boston Dynamics robot, okay, which can move. It has sensors. It can observe the environment. It can listen. Okay. Now let's say that the feedback is linked to a ChatGPT-like language model. So it has an internet or radio connection. It can then hear what you're saying, pass it through the cloud-based quantum computer doing ChatGPT AI in a massive quantum computer somewhere and responding and then giving a response back. Quantum computers are actually very good for AI because quantum computers are probability based as well. Whoa! Now you have a robot that can sense the environment, can react. And now, can you imagine being a criminal, or maybe just walking on the street and the robot interviews you and said, "Hey, what are you doing here tonight? This is not your usual pattern. You don't usually walk the street. What are you doing in this neighborhood? You live over there. I've done facial recognition. You live quite a ways away. What are you doing in this neighborhood? You're acting suspiciously." Oh my gosh. You think that's possible? Oh gosh, yes. That is possible. What I just described to you is if you arm an AI with the capability to learn the results, consequences of its actions. So let's say that the AI then puts the fear in you. You start to run. Oh my gosh, the AI! I'm a Terminator guy. I'm John Connor, and I'm in front of one of these Terminators, and it asked me a question, and it sensed that I was lying, and then I'm going to run, and of course, the AI says consequence. I did this, and I found the right answer, and I got a consequence, and the guy ran. Therefore, the guy is a bad guy. Shoot. Okay, so some of you will laugh and you think it's just a movie, but the problem is that we're actually building this world to do all this. Now, hopefully I won't be around when that happens, but some of you are still young and you might be there when such a thing happens. And I'm not sure you're going to like that world. So believe it or not, what I talk about, which is privacy, keeps the AI from knowing too much about you. As I already confirmed for you, the AI doesn't know much about me. It knows me, but it doesn't know fact from fiction. So the AI knew me, which is scary in itself that it knows me. And it's hard enough, I was playing music at a restaurant last night because I play jazz, and somebody approached me, and I thought it was just somebody listening to the music and say, "I follow you," and I thought, "Oh, you follow me in my jazz channel? I follow you on your tech channel." It's like, thank you, Echelon, thank you very much. Yeah, we did watch your Skynet 2.0. Good. So, has ChatGPT met Siri? Hello from France, Jose Sisa. So, yeah. So anyway, I am concerned. These technologies do have a consequence, and you can delay a lot of this. I mean, the problem is the next generation will not allow a delay. Since you're giving your data to the machine every day, and I don't give my data to the machine, so I have an advantage. And many of you who do not follow me are giving the advantage to the AI. So for most of you who follow me, by protecting your data, you're actually preventing the AI from taking advantage of you. So even if I'm not around, 100 years from now, and I'm not around in this world, somebody can say, well, we're still following the tenets of what Rob... Okay, there was a brief disconnection there. I just saw a little warning. Just saw a little warning that was disconnected. But didn't last long. Okay. Just like 5 seconds. 5 seconds of I just saw a little sign says disconnecting. Oh, okay. So, fortunately, we got through most of this without any issue. Is the volume okay now? Because I've been adjusting things. People were complaining, and I've really been pretty cavalier about mic distance. I've been trying to speak at a certain distance from the mic. So just to make sure it's clear. People complain if it's on the lower end of the band, they want it like right next to clipping. It's pretty hard to maintain. So I can't be emotional, because if I start getting hyped up, I start to shout, and then it's going to be a problem on the mic. So hopefully everything is much better. Live streams are very hard. Somebody said, "You're a tech guy. You should solve this." And yeah, I don't control the internet, unfortunately. So yeah, what do you think would make AI conscious? An AI cannot be conscious. An AI can act sentient, can act like it has self-awareness. It can act all that. It's just a machine. It is not ever going to be sentient, because it's just a machine. But it can emulate you. It can actually act so close to human you'll think it's human. That it can do. It can actually fake you in thinking it's human. You can build a robot, I suppose, that can learn to love you. Yes, you can build a robot that can do that, but does it really love you? No. It's a robot. It's a machine. Okay? It can make you believe that. Can make you believe that. If you buy one of those Japanese robot dogs, you think the robot dog really likes you because it's like cuddly and loving to you. It's a zucking robot. It's a zucking robot. Okay? It's a machine. Zeros and ones. That's all it knows. Zeros and ones. Sure, it can emulate your behavior. It can be like Sophia the computer with expressions on the face that will seem so human. You can put it in a perfect human body, and you would think it is human. And you can emulate skin, and you can do all of that, and you can emulate hair, and you can make it seem as human, so human that you actually believe it's human, but it can't be human because it's a zucking computer. It's a zucking computer. By the way, zucking is spelled with a Z, not an S. Somebody was trying to emulate me. Thank you, Daisy. Daisy Craze. Thank you so much. That is so generous of you. Thank you so much. Somebody was reminds me of that Ex Machina. Yeah, that movie. Yeah. Of course, in the movie they actually seem like they're sentient, but no, they're not. In the Ex Machina movie, they're basically saying that those robots, those Google robots, because that's what they are in the movie. They're really Google. They become sentient. No, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Definitely, if you communicate with AI the wrong way and say, "Protect you," would it grab you and lock you to your house as a prisoner? But I hope it's smarter than that, because that's not human behavior. So Robo 6079, Rob 6079. It should emulate human behavior as closely as possible. What would a human do? So that's what they will be able to emulate, where it almost acts so human that they're going to say, let's let the robots vote. Okay, if you did that, then whatever society is as the average, that will be your computer, an average. And some of you think that ChatGPT can be used to do your homework and so on. And what it will make you is a very average. It will give you a very average response with very average text, it will never be creative. It will be average. Because it learned by averaging. So it'll give you average ideas and average responses. So just so you know. So it wouldn't even disrupt democracy. Well, if it's based on, looking at social media, there will be just subtle, as the middle moves, then the AI will move with it. So ChatGPT is probably right. I would imagine, depending on the model and how it was trained, that it's somewhere near the middle, with a bias left or right, depending on who made it. But yeah, I would expect ChatGPT is not a Nazi, ChatGPT is not a white supremacist and all that, because probably those have been taken out. So some area of a middle. We only get the dumbed down version. Well, there could be a less dumbed down version. You're correct. Only if you're short bus studies major. What the heck is that? Fear is false evidence appearing like real. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Can't discuss that here, or you get me banned. You know how it is. We're in a censored environment here. I'm not censored on Rumble. YouTube is very, very censored. I can't even say what CSAM is. They'll cause them to demonetize. So, crazy world here. CSAM gets you demonetized. Just saying it. Crazy. I don't want to even argue. I'm not going to argue with them, about why would you demonetize over defining what CSAM is. But, by the way, the AI, there's an AI on YouTube, and then it finds certain words, and it makes a judgment that you said certain words, and it interprets the context. And the AI at YouTube must be quite dumb, because it just, use the certain words and says, oh, we don't want these words in a video, okay? And if the certain combination of words, which is in CSAM, if you know the abbreviation of CSAM, there are the three first letters are enough to trigger the AI, because the AI is not very smart. So the YouTube AI is not ChatGPT. The YouTube AI is very dumb. NordVPN have ads on local TV commercials. Does that mean they've been bought out? NordVPN have ads on NordVPN, and many of these VPNs, you're 90% of what you give them is being paid to advertising, and you're cramped into servers with thousands of users in them. Bytes VPN does not have that many users per server, so we don't cramp your style, because we don't rely on volume, and we don't rely on, it's more expensive service. We have a smaller profit margin, but then we save because we don't use any marketing. I don't do any marketing on the VPN. I just talk about it here on this channel, and that's it. That's the only marketing it gets, and it's good enough. So I don't need it to be big. It doesn't matter to me. I've developed software for 40 years, and I agree with Rob that computers are dumb as rocks. They only do what you tell them to do, not what you meant them to do. It gives you kind of power, because if you know that, then you can solve any computer problem. I have never faced a computer problem I have not solved. I always find the bug or whatever, the design, the chip fault. I've always found something, and this is, in all my years of time in computer systems, and unlike many people, I did not retire from the field. I've been, when I first started C programming, when C language first came out, and I'm still here today doing stuff on newer languages and newer systems, and I'm still pretty up to date. In fact, I'm very up to date. Although my haters go attack me and say, you don't know anything. And it's like, oh, really? And then they debate me and I say, I'm beginning to doubt that these people debating me actually understand what they're talking about. So, yeah, so I'm pretty confident in my computer skills, even in these modern times. Very confident. Doesn't mean I will do I can do everything. And that you'll never find a bug on any software I write, because we only have so much time. So yeah, it doesn't mean I can be perfect in everything, but I can program anything, and given time I can do anything. So, but that's not the way I make money now. The way I make a living is through giving you ideas. I am no longer in the business of the main business of programming. That's not my main business now. So, yeah. Anyway, we have 9 minutes left. So let me. I wonder why there are not that many people commenting on Rumble. So obviously Rumble did not share the video. Oh, wait a minute. My God, it didn't update. There are actually comments on Rumble, and the screen did not update. Yeah, okay, so there are people on Rumble, and yeah, people. This is a bug on Rumble. I just noticed it wasn't updating the screen. So I missed some of these comments. Hydroxide, American Legend, Great Gold. So sorry about that. I mean, I was looking at it, and it's like nobody's responding, and it wasn't moving to chat. So it's not as reliable as YouTube. YouTube, the chat moves, so people are actually listening here. My age, Rob is my age and was around before I was, and C was around for 20 years before I was in my teens. Yeah. Okay, Adam. I didn't know my age, but it's funny, people guess my age, but okay. Well, that could actually be hard to interpret, because I was actually doing programming in my, I was programming already in my teens. So, yeah, I was programming in my teens. My first job programming in Fortran, I was still in my teens, and that was a job. So yeah. Were you big on BBSs? Oh, sure. I ran some. Yeah. So yeah, BBSs, of course. So I'm glad to be. So Free Scholar is glad to be old. So Fortran, not 4chan, Fortran. So yeah, I know exactly when C came out, because when C came out, you to learn C, you got the book by Kernighan and Ritchie. Do I still have that book? I'm sure I don't, but yeah, and there was no resource. Nobody told you how to program in C. They just gave you the Zucking book and say, here, program in C. I was like, Zuck. So, well, just so you know, I programmed in C for so long. I built enterprise systems in C, completely in C, not C mixed with something else. 100% C code. Enterprise systems, very large, with multi-million lines of code. C is very tedious to write. I mean, there's a lot of code to write, and I did all that. Please fix Boost Mobile 8 million out of service. How do I fix Boost Mobile? Boost is AT&T, by the way. So wonder what would the issue be? Do you like doing things in Python too? Now I do Python when it's convenient, because C is kind of like a waste of time now. C is very time consuming, so why would you do? So Python is actually made up of C modules, so you can write the module for Python in C and then just use Python. And nowadays, nowadays there's no purpose to writing anything in straight C. It's even in an Android, for example, is written in C, like Linux is written in C, and then you or C++, and then but you don't. You write in Java. So, but because I'm a C programmer, I can read the code for Android, and I understand that because it's just C. It's no big deal, just C. So, what is GitHub for? GitHub is a source repository, which you can use to share projects with others. And of course, it's owned now by Microsoft. But I use it to share open source code. For example, Brax code is on there. So if you say, I don't trust you, Rob, whatever you're doing, well, you can go to GitHub and look at the source code and see what it is you don't trust me about, because you can see the source code on there. So not everything I do is on GitHub, but the important ones are like Brax. What age did you learn coding languages? I think I don't know, 16, 17, something like that. My first computer that I worked with though was mainframes. So working with mainframe computers at the beginning, there was no like PC or anything like that. It was mainframes. So my first language that I first learned was COBOL, which I never used in real life. And then the second language I used in real life, which nobody taught me, I just figured it out, was Fortran. And then various languages from that, including BASIC, with IBM PCs. There are other languages. For example, the AS400 is its own language. What's the language? I forget the name of the language. I didn't use that. But everything can be figured out. And then I did assembly language, and then finally I went to C. So you were a late coder. No, it wasn't that I was a late coder. There were no computers. I was so old there were no computers. I'm a late coder. Yeah, the problem was having access to a computer in that time, in that time of life, that in that age, the only people who can afford a computer were governments and universities. I had my access to the university, but nobody had access to computers. Of course, Radio Shack. Come on, talk about something more serious, like the IBM PC 8088. But my actual my first job was on 3800 IBM mainframe. That's what I did. Then I would do some programming projects and pretty much stop the machine from running, and that's a multi-million-dollar computer, and I would be the only one using it. So yeah, okay, guys, I have no more time. So I appreciate you watching and learning about this topic. I don't know if you'd like me to make a short video about what I just explained today. This might be useful, but I have other videos in mind for the next couple of videos that are completely unrelated. So yeah, two totally different videos that have nothing to do with anything I've done so far. So that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. And then maybe, depending on the interest here, if this is interesting, then I will explain this in much more detail, what I talked about in this video. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you around next week. Bye-bye. Okay, so that was